The sanctum sanctorum was never quiet, but tonight it felt wrong. Dr. Stephen Strange stood in the main hall, hands raised, golden sparks forming circles around a twisting tear in the air. The tear was not like his portals. It shivered in sharp angles and deep purple light, as if it could not decide where it wanted to go. Books fluttered. Candles blew out and relit by themselves. The air smelled like coal stone and old ink, not New York. Again, Wong said from behind him, voice steady but tense. It is linked to something else. The tear jerked wider for a second. Strange saw a flash inside it that did not belong to his world at all. Long tables under a high ceiling, dozens of floating candles, children in robes turning to look up, mouths open. Strange narrowed his eyes. That is not Kamartaj. The tear spat something out. A feather quill shot through, spinning. It sliced across the room and stabbed into a pillar with a wet thock. A stream of parchment strips followed, swirling like white leaves. Strange snapped his fingers. Golden whips of energy wrapped the flying paper and drew it into a safe, glowing sphere. Some kind of school, he muttered. Parallel plane, bound to the tear. It is unstable, Wong said. We must shut it before it links fully. Strange nodded. His cloak of levitation tightened around his shoulders like a cat digging in claws before a jump. He lifted the eye of Agamotto, already humming on his chest. Time magic was dangerous, and he knew it. But the tear was not closing on its own. It was widening, its edges chewing through his wards. Just enough to roll back this local mess, Strange said. He twisted the eye. Green light poured out in a ring, wrapping the tear and the floating debris. Time shivered. The moving papers slid backward. The quill sprang out of the pillar and flew back into the tear. The crack in the air shrank. Then something pushed back. Strange felt it at once. A weight, old magic, heavy and stubborn. It did not act like Dormammu's realm, or like any dimensional being he knew. It felt like rules written long ago. It did not want to be rewound. The tear flared. The green ring spun out of his control and broke into shards. One shard sliced past his face, another cut across the floor, leaving a thin line of green flame. Wong raised a shield. Strange. I've got it. Strange dug in his heels. He changed his spell, dropped the time reversal, and tried to fold the tear into the mirror dimension instead. Golden circles snapped into place around the crack, trying to wrap it like a cage. For a heartbeat, it worked. The tear stopped growing. Then the other side pulled. Strange saw the candle-lit hall again, closer this time. He heard voices, laughter, the clink of plates, a boy shouting something about sausages. The pull became a drag. His own portal spell caught on the tear like a hook. Oh, come on, he breathed. The tear lunged outward. The magic rope from his own spell whipped tight and yanked him forward. Strange tried to cut the spell, but it was too late. The cloak flung itself in front of him, wrapping him like a shield. The world twisted. For a second, he fell through darkness, then through a sky filled with candles and fake stars. The sound hit him like a wave. Hundreds of voices, clinking cups, forks, laughter, and then a table. Strange crashed into the middle of it, rolling through plates and bowls, his shoulder slamming into mashed potatoes. The cloak tried to soften the fall, but still knocked over a pitcher of pumpkin juice. The table snapped in two. The hall went silent. He pushed himself up, blinking. He stood on a long stone floor between endless tables full of children in black robes. Above them, a night sky shimmered on a ceiling that was clearly not outside. Candles floated in the air. Banners hung from the walls. 4 colors, 4 animals. Well, Strange said, voice dry. That's new. Someone screamed. A girl. Dishes and cups shook in the air. A loud voice shouted, Protego, and a blue shield flashed between him and the nearest group of students. Strange raised a hand without thinking. Sigils formed in front of him. Every flying plate and cup froze in midair. Pumpkin juice hung like a glassy wave. Bits of mashed potato floated inches from a boy's face. The cloak flared out, brushing away a stray spark of red light that shot from someone's wand. It flicked the spark back toward the ceiling where it popped like a firework. At the far end of the hall, an old man rose from a golden chair. He had a long silver beard, half-moon glasses, and calm blue eyes that missed nothing. To his right, a witch with a stern face and square glasses pointed her wand straight at Strange. To his left, a black-clad man with greasy hair and a hooked nose scowled, his dark eyes fixed on the intruder. Wands lifted all along the staff table. Strange quickly lowered his hands and let the frozen dishes settle back onto the broken table in neat lines. Juice poured itself back into the pitcher. The cloak brushed crumbs off his shoulders with offended flicks. Sorry about the furniture, he said. A small patched hat on a stool near the front of the hall jerked as if offended. The cloak turned, noticed it, and immediately nudged it with a corner like a curious animal. The hat rocked, grumbled under its breath, and tried to bite the cloak, which jerked back in mock shock. Near the center table, a black-haired boy with round glasses pressed a hand to his forehead and winced. A sharp pain cut through his scar. For a moment his vision blurred, and he saw not the hall, but a cold, pale face in a dark place, hissing in anger. "Who is that?" the voice in his head snarled. Up at the staff table, the old man lifted his hand. "Staff," he said calmly, "lower your wands. The children are safe." The hooked-nosed man did not lower his wand at once. His eyes narrowed, taking in the floating sparks of magic around Strange, the glowing amulet on his chest, the living cloak. The old man started down the steps, his gaze never leaving Strange. "Welcome," he said, voice mild but edged with power, "to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." Strange blinked once, then he gave the smallest smile. "Dr. Stephen Strange," he said, "Sorcerer Supreme." The old man stopped a few meters away, studying him like a puzzle. "I am Albus Dumbledore, and I think, Doctor, that you and I have much to discuss." Above them, the enchanted sky flickered. For one heartbeat, Strange saw not stars, but a spiral of green and purple light, like two skies sliding over each other. Then it was gone, and only the candles remained. He realized very clearly that he had no idea how to get home. Dumbledore's office felt like a museum and a mind all at once. Strange sat in a high-backed chair with clawed feet. The wood creaked softly under his weight. All around him, strange instruments ticked and whirred. Silver devices puffed smoke. Little planets spun in the air on invisible strings. Portraits of old witches and wizards lined the walls, whispering to each other and sneaking looks at him when they thought he was not watching. He was always watching. Dumbledore stood at a tall cabinet, pouring tea with easy motions. His half-moon glasses reflected the fire. A phoenix perched near the desk, bright red and gold, tilting its head at Strange as if judging him. The cloak floated near a shelf, poking at random things. It tried to flick a quill. The quill snapped at it. The cloak whipped back. A portrait of a fat wizard snorted. "I am grateful you did not attack anyone in the Great Hall," Dumbledore said as he brought over 2 cups. "That was a tense moment." Strange took the tea, more to be polite than anything. In my experience, he said, explaining first and fighting later is cheaper on repairs. You speak from experience, Dumbledore said with a small smile. You have no idea. They both sat. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. You say you are a sorcerer. From where? New York, Strange said. Earth. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled, but not in a simple, friendly way. It was like seeing two lights behind one pair of eyes. We too are on Earth. Yet clearly, it is not the same one. Strange took a breath. Where I come from, magic is older than people think, but we know its shape, the realms, the rules. There are other dimensions, other timelines. We guard them. I am what my order calls the Sorcerer Supreme. I protect my Earth from magical threats. Your order? Dumbledore asked gently. The Masters of the Mystic Arts, Strange said. We train in Camartage. We draw power from other dimensions. We shape it into spells, circles, shields, portals. We bargain with dangerous beings when we must. Dumbledore listened without interrupting. The phoenix fluffed its feathers and settled. And how, he asked, did you come to this particular dinner party? Strange set the cup down. His hand still shook a little from the tear's pull, though he hid it well. There was a tear in the fabric of reality, he said. In my sanctum. I tried to close it with time magic. Your world pushed back. He lifted a hand. A small, harmless ring of light appeared above his palm, showing a tiny copy of the Great Hall. Floating candles, roof, 4 banners. The ring snapped shut at once. Time itself did not want to be touched, Strange said. That is unusual. Dumbledore nodded slowly. Our magic is tied to stories, to bonds, to sacrifices made long ago. There are certain events that resist change. He paused. Tell me, Dr. Strange, what were you before you were a sorcerer? Strange hesitated. A doctor, a surgeon. I fixed broken bodies with my hands. I was the best. At least I thought so. Then a car crash took that from me. I lost my hands, my skill, my career. And you found magic instead, Dumbledore said softly. I looked for a way to fix myself, Strange said. To undo my own damage. I found Camartage. I learned that the world was bigger than me. That my pain did not matter as much as the whole. I bargained with a being called Dormammu to save my world. I died again and again inside a time loop to force him to leave. That is the kind of thing I do now. For the first time, a clear flash of respect moved through Dumbledore's gaze. So you made yourself into a shield, he said. Strange snorted lightly. Something like that. The phoenix hopped closer, peering into Strange's face. Then it gave a soft, sad cry. Warmth rolled over him, soothing the edge of his nerves. The cloak floated down and touched the bird gently, as if greeting an equal. Dumbledore leaned back. There is much you do not know about this world, he said, and much I do not know about yours. But I believe this, you did not come here by chance. Strange glanced toward the window. Night pressed against the glass, but he could feel the magic beyond it. The castle was wrapped in layers of power, wards, shields, lines of force running through stone and sky. He closed his eyes and let his astral sight slip open for a moment. Hogwarts changed. He saw the walls as lines of glimmering gold and blue, woven around the grounds like a net. Each line pulsed with old spells. Love, sacrifice, promises, protection against certain kinds of harm. The castle itself felt alive in a way the sanctum did, but with different rules. He also saw something else. Thin cracks of dark light ran through the net. Little sharp points of wrongness. One pulsed in the distance, far beyond the school, Another hummed under the floor. Another, faint but clear, rested in the scar of the black-haired boy he had seen at dinner. Strange opened his eyes. The flicker of the eye of Agamotto dimmed again. "This place is complicated," he said dryly. Dumbledore's mouth curved. "Hogwarts often is," he said. "Doctor Strange, I will not pretend we are safe. There is a dark wizard abroad. His name is Lord Voldemort. He has torn his soul apart to cling to life. The wrongness you feel is likely tied to that." "I figured it was something like that," Strange said. "Soul anchors. Nasty business." "We call them Horcruxes," Dumbledore said. "And yes, very nasty." Strange glanced at the spinning instruments, at the phoenix, at the portraits pretending not to listen. "You're already fighting a war," he said. "A slow one." "Indeed," Dumbledore said, "and your arrival has not gone unnoticed." "By who?" Strange asked. "By everyone," Dumbledore said simply. Harry Potter could not sleep. He lay in his four-poster bed in Gryffindor Tower, curtains drawn, staring at the faint glow of the enchanted ceiling charm above him. The image of the stranger in the Great Hall would not leave his mind. He had seen powerful wizards before. He had seen Dumbledore duel. He had seen Voldemort. But this man, this Doctor Strange, moved differently. There was no wand, no shouted words, just his hands and those glowing circles, and everything in the hall had obeyed him like it was the easiest thing in the world. "Harry?" Ron's sleepy voice drifted from the next bed. "You awake?" "Yeah," Harry muttered. "You?" "Was," Ron said. "Then I thought about the cloak putting gravy back into the bowl on its own, and now I'm hungry again." Harry snorted in spite of himself. He could still see it. The red cloak fussing over spoons, scooping mashed potatoes out of mid-air and shoving them back on plates as if offended by the mess. "He's not like us," Harry said quietly. "He's not a wizard." "He said he's a sorcerer," Ron replied. "Maybe that's like a fancy foreign word for wizard who doesn't like wands." "Ron," Hermione's voice hissed from the dark. "Sorcerers are in books, rare, ancient, but he's using a completely different system. Did you see the shapes and no incantations? Well, not out loud anyway. We have to learn how it works." "Of course we do," Ron said dryly. "Why did I even ask?" Harry's scar throbbed again. He pressed his fingers against it. "He feels wrong to Voldemort," he said. "When he arrived, I saw something. I heard him. He sounded angry, confused, like someone had moved a piece on a board and he hadn't seen it happen." Hermione's bed creaked as she sat up. "If Voldemort doesn't understand him," she whispered, "that might actually be good. Or worse," Ron muttered. "Makes him want to understand." A flutter of wings brushed Harry's curtain. He jolted, but it was only the red cloak, slipping through the gap like a smug cat. It floated above his bed for a second, then poked his pillow twice, as if telling him to lie down. Harry blinked. Hi." The cloak flicked, then swirled around the dormitory once, tugging Ron's blanket back up over his feet, adjusting Hermione's stacks of books into a neat pile by her bed. Then it glided out through the wall, leaving a faint trace of warmth. "Did that thing just tuck me in?" Ron whispered. "I'm being tucked in by a piece of clothing." Hermione sounded delighted. "It's sentient. This is amazing." Harry stared at the wall, where the cloak had vanished. Somewhere above, in Dumbledore's office, the man who wore it was probably talking with his headmaster. Harry's scar pulsed one more time and then calmed. A new player had appeared on the board. Voldemort did not know him. Harry did not know him. He was not sure which worried him more, The fire in the small, dark room burned green. Lord Voldemort stood before it, pale face lit by shifting light. Snakes carved into the stone walls seemed to move as the flames danced. Around him, robed Death Eaters knelt, masks gleaming. "There has been a disturbance," Voldemort said softly. "Tell me." Lucius Malfoy lifted his head. "My lord, the old fool has allowed some kind of stranger into the school. The boy writes that he appeared in the middle of the feast. No wand, no robes. Yet he bent the air with his hands." Voldemort's red eyes narrowed. He lifted his own pale hand, flexing the long fingers. He could feel it, a tremor in the web of magic that tied his Horcruxes together. Someone had pulled on the strands from another side. "When he came," Voldemort said, his voice like ice, "I felt something tug at my soul. Who is this man?" "The boy does not know, my lord," Lucius said. "He signs his letters as Dr. Stephen Strange. The name is not on any wizarding record." "A muggle," spat another Death Eater. "No," Voldemort murmured. "Not just a muggle." He closed his eyes. He reached along the thin, dark lines that connected his Horcruxes. The diary, gone but still leaving a scar, the ring, the locket, the cup, the snake, the boy himself. Somewhere among those lines now lay a new weight, a presence that did not belong. For a second, he caught a flash of the Great Hall, a man in blue and red, a glowing amulet on his chest, circles of light in his hands, time bending and snapping stubbornly back into place. Interesting. "Watch Hogwarts," Voldemort said. "Our plans continue, but we will learn more of this." "Dr. Strange, any new force in my world will either serve me or be broken." The fire flared higher, as if in answer. For a moment, deep inside the green flames, something else looked back. Something that was not quite of this world at all. The next day, Strange woke in a tower room that had been empty for years. Dumbledore had led him up the moving staircases himself, explaining that it once housed a divination teacher. The room was round, with tall windows that looked over the lake and the mountains beyond. Dust lay on the floor in soft patches. Old charts of stars and planets cluttered the walls. The cloak seemed to like it at once. It floated around, shaking out the dust with sharp snaps, bullying a mop into motion. A pile of dusty teacups tried to resist being moved, but the cloak herded them to a shelf. "You know we're not staying," Strange said as he watched. The cloak ignored him and adjusted the curtains for the best view. Now, in the pale light of morning, Strange stood at one window and let his astral sight open again. Hogwarts shone in lines and knots. He traced them in his mind. Strong anchors at the 4 house tables, a blazing knot around Dumbledore's office, a deep, old route under the castle where something important rested. He also traced the wrongness. It pulsed like black bruises in the golden web. One far away in a ring, one in an old cup, one in a locket, one very close, moving through the school with a teenage boy. He could fix broken things. He had always fixed broken things, but this world was not his patient. A soft knock came at the door. Strange turned. With a little flick, he opened it without touching. Harry, Hermione, and Ron stood outside, awkward in the doorway. Ron's eyes went wide as he saw the room, the floating instruments, the cloak. Harry said. "Professor Dumbledore said you wanted to talk to us." "Come in," Strange said. "And it's just doctor, not professor. I don't teach children." He paused. "Usually." Hermione's eyes shone as she stepped in, taking in every detail. "Your magic," she blurted. "How does it work?" Is it wandless casting? Is there a focus word? Are those runes? I've never seen shapes like that, and I've read every book. Hermione, Harry said quickly. Breathe. Strange actually smiled. One question at a time, he said, and some of those answers might be dangerous. For now, basic idea. I pull power from other dimensions, shape it with training, and keep very careful watch on the things that want to eat your world. Ron swallowed. Eat our world? Lots of things like a good planet snack, Strange said. You're lucky. Your castle is very well shielded. Harry frowned. Dumbledore said you fixed a tear. Does that mean you can go back, or that you're stuck here? Strange looked at the lake again. Right now, I'm stuck, he said. The path I came through slammed shut behind me, and this world doesn't like time tricks. I have to understand your magic before I can leave, and before I break anything worse by trying. Hermione leaned forward. Your world, she said. You said you protect it. From what? Strange hesitated. Then he lifted his hand. A small circle of light opened, showing a fast image. A dark giant with burning eyes. A loop of time. Strange dying again and again, bargaining. Then he snapped it shut. No need to show them everything. From things bigger than this, he said quietly, and from myself. Harry watched him. He could sense the weight in the doctor's voice. It sounded like Dumbledore when he talked about the past, or like Sirius when he spoke of Azkaban. Dumbledore thinks you can help us, Harry said. He says there's a dark wizard called Voldemort who... I know the name, Strange said. I felt him when I scanned the castle. He tapped his own forehead. He has his claws in you, in your scar. Harry stiffened. His hand went up almost by habit. Can you get him out? Strange could have lied. He did not. Maybe, he said. But if I rip at that thread without understanding the whole web, I might pull this whole world's magic apart, or kill you, or both. Ron went pale. Hermione clenched her hands. So what do we do? Harry asked. We learn, Strange said. You show me how your magic works. I show you enough of mine that you don't panic the next time I open a portal in the hallway. In return, I watch your castle for bigger cracks. Deal? Hermione nodded at once. Deal, she said. Ron shrugged weakly. As long as we're not homework, he muttered. The cloak swooped down, wrapped around Ron for a second, and shook him like a rug, making his hair stand on end. Harry burst out laughing. Ron glared up at the cloak. Brilliant, he grumbled. Even his clothes make fun of me. Strange let himself laugh once, short and sharp. It felt oddly good. The staff meeting in the small conference room below the Great Hall was not as cheerful. McGonagall sat rigid, her lips thin, fingers wrapped around a cup of tea. Snape leaned against the wall, arms folded, eyes like dark chips of stone. Sprout and Flitwick watched in worried silence. Dumbledore stood at the head of the table, and on the far side, Dolores Umbridge in her pink cardigan smiled a tight, fake smile. I must insist, she said, voice sugary and sharp at the same time, that the Ministry be informed about this person, a non-registered magic user inside Hogwarts. It is highly irregular. Most things worth doing are, Dumbledore said mildly. Umbridge's smile did not change, but her eyes flashed. You cannot simply invite any stranger into this school, she said, especially not one who uses such vulgar displays. The Ministry has rules, Headmaster. It is our duty to uphold them. Snape spoke for the first time. He did not invite himself, he said. He fell through the roof during dinner. I doubt that was part of any plan. That remains to be seen, Umbridge said with a sniff. We do not know where he comes from. We do not know his loyalties. We do not even know if he is human." McGonagall bristled. "He saved several children from being crushed when he arrived," she snapped. "He put the entire hall back in order with one spell. I will not have you imply he is some kind of monster." Snape's mouth twitched. "Impressive power does not make a friend, Minerva," he said softly. "It makes a target, or a threat." Dumbledore lifted a hand. "Severus is right to be cautious," he said. "And Dolores is right that the Ministry will take an interest. That is why I will inform them myself, in my own words." "And what will you say?" Umbridge asked. "That we have a guest," Dumbledore said. "A powerful sorcerer from another world who is for the moment stranded. That he wishes to study our magic and help protect the school from a growing threat. And that Hogwarts remains under my control. And if the Ministry demands he be turned over for questioning," Umbridge asked, the sweet tone thinning. "Then I will decline," Dumbledore said calmly. Umbridge's face flushed pink under the pink. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Snape watched her with cool interest. He had seen many people try to push Dumbledore. Very few succeeded. After the meeting, as Umbridge stormed out to write her own reports, Snape lingered. "You are trusting him," he said quietly. "Too quickly." "I am giving him space," Dumbledore said. "Not trust, not yet. But I have seen men who made bargains with terrible beings and came back still human. He is one of them." "He plays with time," Snape said. "I felt it. That is not a game I am ready to watch him play with our children's lives." Dumbledore sighed. He looked older, just for a second. "I know, Severus," he said. "That is why you must watch him, study him, prepare for unfortunate outcomes, as you always do." Snape's eyes flicked to a window, where a red shape zipped past and smacked into a tapestry. The cloak wrestled with the hanging cloth for a moment before sliding free, as if it had won some secret war. "And if he turns?" Snape asked. "Then we will do what we always do," Dumbledore said quietly. "Our best." A week later, Strange stood in the middle of an empty classroom, sleeves rolled up, trying very hard to explain magic to teenagers without breaking the universe. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Luna, and a few other members of the Secret Defense Group sat in a half-circle in front of him. Their wands lay on the floor at their feet. The cloak hovered behind Strange like an over-eager assistant. "Okay," Strange said. "First lesson. When something dangerous comes at you, your first job is not to look cool. It's to not die. That means shields, movement, and thinking." Ron whispered. "He sounds like Mad-Eye, but younger." Hermione elbowed him. Strange drew a glowing circle in the air. "This is a simple shield," he said. "I shape it with my hands. You shape yours with your minds and wands. Different tools, same goal. You will not be doing this." He spun the shield like a frisbee and caught it. "But you can learn the idea behind it." He pointed at Harry. "Throw a spell at me. Nothing lethal, please. It's a school." Harry glanced at Hermione, then raised his wand. "Stupefy." The red bolt shot toward Strange. He flicked his hand. A golden disc snapped into place. The spell hit and scattered in sparks. "Again," Strange said. "Faster." They tried different spells. Strange blocked all of them, sometimes with his shields, sometimes by folding space so the spells hit empty air and slammed into a target dummy behind him instead. The students gasped and laughed when their own spells bounced back at them. "See?" Strange said. "Magic is not just about power. It's about angles, timing, position. If you can move the attack, you do not have to be stronger than it." "Can you teach us that?" Hermione asked, eyes shining. "Some of it," Strange said. Your magic follows words and wand motions. Mine follows shapes and focus. We can meet in the middle. The cloak, bored, drifted toward Luna's hat and started poking the little lion badge on it. Luna reached up and patted the cloak like an old friend. Outside, clouds thickened over the castle. Strange felt a prickle at the back of his neck. The hair on his arms rose. Something dark stroked the edge of the wards. He frowned and turned toward the window. Harry's scar burned. Pain shot through his head. He saw, for a moment, not the classroom, but a stretch of village covered in snow. Black-robed figures moving through the street. Green flashes, people screaming, and in the distance, by the gates of Hogwarts, a shadow like a snake made of night. Harry! Hermione's voice sounded distant. Harry, what is it? Death Eaters, Harry gasped. They're here, Hogsmeade, and something else. Strange did not waste a second. He slashed his hand through the air. A large ring of sparks spun open in the middle of the classroom, showing a view of the main entrance hall. Class dismissed, he said sharply. To the Great Hall, now. The student stared at the portal, then at him. Move, he barked. They ran through, wands up, hearts pounding. The cloak wrapped around Neville and pushed him faster, then shoved him out the other side. Strange stayed back for one beat, eyes closed, feeling the pressure on the outer wards. It was not just Death Eaters. Something big and wrong pressed from the other side, like a fist testing glass. He stepped through his own portal, and the battle began. Snow fell in fat, slow flakes over Hogsmeade. People had been enjoying a winter weekend. Now they ran in all directions. Death Eaters in black masks and cloaks stalked the street, hurling curses. Windows shattered. Signs burned. A shopfront exploded, sending glass and candy flying. Near the edge of the village, an invisible line shimmered in the air. The outermost wards of Hogwarts. The Death Eaters pushed against it with curses, testing for weak points. Bellatrix Lestrange spun in the snow, laughing, her wild hair swinging. Come out, little students, she sang. Come and play. Above, the sky darkened unnaturally. A shape like a long serpent made of shadow coiled in the clouds. Its eyes burned green. Its body rippled with black fire. Each breath made the wards around Hogwarts flare and groan. By the gates, Dumbledore stood, wand held loosely, eyes narrowed. He lifted it and cast a wide shield across the front of the grounds, reinforcing a section that flickered. He felt the shadow creature at once. It was not a normal spell. It was a fusion of dark curses and something else. Something from beyond their world. Albus, McGonagall panted as she reached his side, snow in her hair. He is pushing harder than before. Yes, Dumbledore said softly. He has a new toy. The air between them, rings of orange sparks, opened. Doctor Strange stepped out, cloak snapping in the wind. Harry and the others poured after him, along with other students Dumbledore had sent toward safety. Strange's eyes went straight to the sky. That thing, he said quietly, does not belong here. The shadow serpent reared back and struck the wards. The air shook. Sudden cracks of green lightning ran along the shield. Students back, McGonagall shouted. To the castle, now. Harry hesitated, watching the shadow. Strange glanced at him. Help get them inside, Strange said. This part isn't for kids. Harry's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Come on, he yelled, driving the others toward the entrance. Strange rose into the air. The cloak lifted him easily, spreading wide. He flew up above the gates, above Dumbledore and the Death Eaters, until he was level with the shadow's burning eyes. From below, It looked like a tiny blue and red figure squaring off against a storm. Dormammu's cousins, Strange muttered. Great. He traced a large circle with both hands. Golden lines flared in the sky, forming a lattice. He pushed the lattice forward, trying to wrap it around the serpent. The creature roared, a sound that shook snow from branches. It lunged and hit the lattice, teeth scraping bright sparks. Dark flames ate at the edges of Strange's construct. On the ground, Bellatrix looked up, eyes wide with delight. See how he shines, she cried. Our new guest is marvelous. Focus, snapped a Death Eater beside her. The Dark Lord wants us inside the castle while it is weak. Dumbledore raised his wand. Silver fire poured from it, latching onto the lower half of the serpent, trying to drag it down. The old wizard and the Sorcerer Supreme balanced the creature between them, two very different magics pulling on one twisted monster. The ward screamed. Strange felt it through his hands. This world's protective net was not built for this kind of strain. If he simply crushed the serpent with brute force, the backlash could snap the wards completely. Fine, he growled. We do this the hard way. He flicked his wrist. The sky shattered around the serpent, revealing the mirror dimension for just a moment. Buildings twisted, clouds folded. The serpent's body stretched between two realities, howling. He tried to pull it fully into the mirror dimension, where it could not hurt anyone. Something blocked him, not the serpent, not the Death Eaters, something older. The Hogwarts wards flared and fought his attempt. They did not want part of themselves pulled out of this world, because that was what the serpent was now, a piece of the wards infected and twisted by dark power. Strange gritted his teeth. He felt time tug at him. The eye of Agamotto warmed. If he rolled time back 10 seconds, he could stop the creature before it bit into the wards. He could keep this mess from ever happening. He twisted the eye. Green rings spun out, wrapping the battle. For a breath, snow rose back into the sky. Shouted curses pulled into mouths. The serpent's fangs backed away from the shield. Then the world snapped like an elastic band. Hogwarts' old magic shoved back against the time spell. Strange saw flashes of other outcomes slam into his mind. In one, he rewound time fully. The serpent never appeared. Voldemort felt the interference and poured all his will into breaking the wards from the inside, using the shock to slip a Horcrux past the net. In another, Strange turned time too far. Students vanished. The architecture of Hogwarts changed. Events that had shaped its protection never happened. In a third, he saw himself crush Voldemort in one move, ripping the soul anchors out by force. The world did not celebrate. It flinched away from him. Wizards hid. A new kind of fear replaced the old one. He jerked his hands back and killed the time spell before it could settle. Green light shattered. The serpent snapped fully into the present again, shrieking. Not an option, Strange hissed. Not here. He changed tactics. Albus, he called over the roar, can you bind? Anchor it to something solid. Dumbledore's white beard whipped in the wind. I can tie it to the grounds, he shouted back, but not destroy it alone. Good enough, Strange said. He dropped lower. With a sweep of his arms, he opened a large portal beneath the serpent's midsection, not to the mirror dimension, but straight down to the lake. Water leaped up in a tall column, freezing around the monster's dark flames. At the same time, Dumbledore slammed his wand into the ground. Lines of light spread from his feet like roots. They wrapped the serpent's lower half, dragging it down toward the icy water, fusing it to the lake bed. The serpent thrashed, half in the sky, half anchored in stone and water. Strange flew above and stamped a final sigil onto its head. The symbol burned white and gold. The creature froze. Its body turned rigid. A statue of shadow and green fire stuck between cloud and lake. Its eyes still burned, but it could not move. Strange felt a tremor shoot along the creature's spine and vanish into the castle's wards. One piece of something bigger had just lodged itself in Hogwarts. On the ground, Death Eaters faltered. Their Dark Lord's fancy new weapon had been chained. Bellatrix screamed in rage and hurled a killing curse at Dumbledore. The old wizard shifted his wand and deflected it with casual precision. A wide wave of shimmering light burst from his wand, smashing into the Death Eaters and knocking many of them off their feet. "Retreat," one shouted. "The Dark Lord did not say we had to die here." In Voldemort's mind, watching through the mark on their arms, the decision came fast. He had learned what he needed. This new player's magic was strong, but he could not reshape time at will here. The wards were stubborn. The castle's old magic was his enemy and Strange's. Later, Voldemort thought coldly, we will use that. The Death Eaters began to disapparate one by one, cracks of sound vanishing into the snow. Strange dropped to the ground, boots crunching. His heart pounded. His fingers tingled with leftover magic. The cloak fluttered, tired but pleased with itself. Dumbledore straightened, adjusting his glasses. Their eyes met. "You see now," the headmaster said quietly, "the shape of our war." Strange looked up at the frozen shadow serpent, stuck between realities, its body a bridge between his kind of magic and theirs. "I see," he said, "and I've just made it worse and better at the same time." Behind them, students peered from the doorway. Harry stared at the serpent, then at Strange. Wonder and fear mixed in his chest. He had seen Dumbledore as the strongest wizard alive. Now he had seen someone else stand beside him, bending reality with bare hands. Inside the castle, whispers were already starting. A man from another world, magic without a wand, a monster nailed to the sky. The story of Hogwarts had changed, and everyone knew it. The Daily Prophet printed the picture as big as it could. On the front page, a dark serpent of shadow and green fire stretched from the lake up into the clouds, frozen and thrashing in mid-air. At its base, tiny figures stood at the gates of Hogwarts. One of them was easy to guess as Dumbledore. The other wore blue and red, a long cloak blooming behind him like a flag. Muggle madness at Hogwarts. Unregistered sorcerer and sky monster. Rock wizarding Britain. Rita Skeeter's words slithered across the page. She wrote about dangerous foreign magic, unstable time bending, and a headmaster gone wild. The article made it sound like Dumbledore had invited a walking disaster into the school. Harry read the story at breakfast, jaw clenched. Students all around the great hall whispered, eyes flicking between the paper, the picture, and the real Strange, who sat at the staff table next to Dumbledore. The Sorcerer Supreme ate toast like this was not the strangest thing he had done all week. The cloak, however, was in a mood. It kept swatting at Rita's moving picture on Harry's paper, covering Strange's face when the drawing tried to look dramatic. Across from Harry, Hermione scowled. "She calls him Muggle-born menace," she said. "And she doesn't even know how his magic works." Ron stabbed a sausage. "Well, he did chain a giant shadow snake to the sky," he said. "Hard to make that sound normal." Harry glanced up at the professor's table. Dumbledore was calm, speaking quietly to Strange. Snape watched them both with his usual unreadable stare. McGonagall looked like she wanted to hex the newspaper out of every hand. Owls swooped in and out above them, dropping more copies. One landed right in front of Umbridge. She unfolded the prophet, read the headline, and smiled a slow, sour smile. Umbridge knocked on the door to Strange's borrowed tower office with small, prim taps. She did not wait for an answer. She just pushed the door open and stepped inside, lace handkerchief in hand. "Professor Dumbledore thought I should speak with you," she said in her sugary voice. "It is very important that everyone at Hogwarts understands ministry regulations." Strange had been standing by the window, tracing faint lines in the air as he watched the wards around the castle. He turned slowly, one eyebrow rising. The cloak floated just above him, playing tug-of-war with a dusty curtain. It stopped when Umbridge walked in and draped itself over Strange's shoulders like an offended cat. "Dolores Umbridge," she said, coming forward and looking around at the star charts and glowing shapes. "Senior Undersecretary to the Minister, High Inquisitor of Hogwarts." "Dr. Stephen Strange," he replied. "Job title. Very complicated." Umbridge's smile did not reach her eyes. "We have rules about magic in this country," she said. "We register wand cores. We track underage use. We have approved curriculum." She eyed the floating glyphs like they were mold on the wall. "And we are quite firm," she added, "on not allowing unknown adults to perform dangerous experiments around children." "I'll try not to experiment on them," Strange said dryly. "Only on reality itself." The cloak jerked like it was laughing. Umbridge's eyelids twitched. "This is not a joke, Mr. Strange," she said. "You have already broken several clear principles, apparating inside the school, opening unapproved portals, casting strange spells on the grounds, summoning that thing in the sky." "I didn't summon it," Strange cut in. His voice stayed calm, but there was a new edge. "Your friend Voldemort did. I saved your wards from collapsing when he used my kind of magic as a weapon. You're welcome." Umbridge's smile thinned. "It is the job of the Ministry," she said, placing a hand on her chest, "to protect the wizarding community. We cannot do that if loose cannons fling unknown magic around, so I will need to see your wand." "I don't use one," Strange said. Her eyes flashed. "Then we will have to confiscate whatever device you use. That amulet, for instance." The cloak moved before Strange did. It whipped forward, knocked the handkerchief out of her hand, and wrapped one end around the eye of Agamotto protectively. Umbridge stumbled back. "How dare you?" she squeaked. "Cloak," Strange said quietly. The red fabric froze mid-swish. "Stop bullying the inspectors." The cloak loosened a little but stayed in front of Strange like a shield. Strange turned back to Umbridge. "You are not touching the eye," he said. "And you're not taking my cloak. They are not toys. They are very dangerous relics that I keep from being abused." "It is the Ministry that decides what is dangerous," Umbridge said through clenched teeth. "In my world," Strange said, "the Ministry that tried that kind of thing got half its people turned into dust. I cleaned that up too." He took a breath and softened his tone slightly. "Look, I'm not your enemy. I'm a visitor, stuck here. I will do my best to follow the school's rules. But if you try to take my tools, you'll make everyone less safe, not more." Umbridge seemed about to explode. Then she smoothed her cardigan with shaky fingers and forced a small laugh. "We shall see what the minister says," she said. "Until then, I will be watching you, very closely." She turned crisply and walked out. As soon as the door shut, the cloak darted after her and tugged at the hem of her skirt, almost tripping her on the stairs. Her shriek echoed faintly back up. Strange pinched the bridge of his nose. "That's not helping," he told the cloak. The cloak shrugged, if a piece of fabric could shrug, and drifted off to poke at a portrait that had been making faces at Umbridge the whole time. Later, when the sun dipped low, Strange stood alone in his tower room with the Eye of Agamotto open. Green bands of time floated around him like translucent rings. Within them, he saw pieces of futures, not in a straight line, but like shattered glass. The rules of this world made the images fuzzy, but he could still catch them in flashes. In one future, Hogwarts burned. Darkness crawled over the walls. The serpent in the sky had grown, one head becoming many. Students ran. Some fell and did not rise. Voldemort floated above the ruins, his laugh echoing. In another future, the castle stood unharmed, but everything else was wrong. He saw himself at the center of the great hall, hands glowing. Horcruxes lifted out of hidden places and shattered. Voldemort screamed and dissolved. The students stared in stunned silence. Then they flinched away as their parents pulled them back. No one clapped. No one cheered. They looked at him like a new Dark Lord. In a third future, he was gone. No serpent, no holes in the sky. Hogwarts fought its own war. Harry stood in a forest, pale and calm, walking toward green light. Dumbledore smiled at him from somewhere beyond. Time jumped, showing just enough to hurt. Strange shut the eye with a snap. The green bands vanished. His tower room came back into focus. He braced his hands on the windowsill, breathing hard. "You tried that before," he muttered to himself. "Choosing the path that saves the most. It still cost you." He remembered Dormammu's realm, dying over and over in a loop, feeling his bones snap, his body burn, his mind break and reset. He remembered the snap, the dust, the 5 missing years. He had sworn not to play God with time again, unless there was no other choice. "This is not my world," he said quietly. "I don't get to write their story for them." The cloak drifted close and laid a corner gently on his shoulder. He let his hand rest there for a second. "Have you seen our future?" Harry's voice came from the doorway. Strange turned. Harry stood there, looking smaller than usual, his hand curled around the doorframe. "You should knock," Strange said. "I did," Harry said. "You didn't answer." "Right." Strange blew out a breath. "Come in." Harry stepped inside, eyes flicking to the eye, then back to Strange's face. "Dumbledore told me you were looking ahead," he said. "I want to know what you saw." Strange hesitated. He could lie. He could say he saw nothing. But the boy in front of him had walked into danger year after year, knowing almost nothing, and kept going anyway. "You die," Strange said bluntly. "In some futures." Harry swallowed. "I figured," he said. "That's pretty much where everything seems to be heading." "In others you live," Strange said. "You win. In some you break. In some you beat him, but the world breaks in different ways. There isn't one set path." Harry walked to the window, staring out at the frozen serpent in the distance. "Can you stop it?" he asked. "Maybe," Strange said, "but not cleanly. Not without changing things that aren't mine to change. If I pull out the infection wrong, I tear the patient apart." Harry frowned. "But you're a doctor." "I'm a doctor who killed a man on an operating table because I thought I was too good to follow the rules," Strange said. "I cut too deep. I've made enough arrogant choices for one life." Silence fell. "So what then?" Harry said. "You just watch while Voldemort tries to take everything?" Strange stepped closer. "No," he said. "I help. I build defenses. I stop the cracks from becoming rips. I can hold the walls while you fight your war. but I won't turn this place into a puppet show, even to save lives." Harry's jaw clenched. His eyes were bright. "You sound like Dumbledore," he muttered. "Good," Strange said. "He's smarter than me." Harry laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "He keeps things from me," he said. "Thinks that makes it easier. It doesn't." Strange nodded slowly. "He has a plan," he said. "So do I. They don't match perfectly, but they both end with you making a choice." "And if I choose wrong?" Harry asked quietly. Strange looked at him for a long moment. "Then you choose again," he said. "That's how life works. No time stone can fix that." Harry held his gaze. For the first time, he saw not just a powerful man, but someone who was tired, who had messed up, who kept going anyway. "Okay," Harry said at last. "So what's your plan?" Strange looked back out at the castle grounds. "I'm going to map your world," he said. "Properly, like a body. I want to see every place this infection has spread. Your Horcruxes, the things tied to this shattered one I felt in the wards. Once I know where everything is, we can decide what to do without ripping you apart." Harry nodded slowly. It sounded like something Hermione would approve of. "Can we help?" Harry asked. "Yes," Strange said. "You, Granger, Weasley, you know this place better than I do. But we start small, quiet, no heroics, just information." Harry snorted. "With you and Dumbledore around, I don't think I'll get a chance for heroics anyway." Strange gave him a small, crooked smile. "Don't bet on it," he said. Far away, in a cold, hidden place, Voldemort stood before a shape that was not quite a person. The shattered one hung in the air like a crack in glass, made solid. It shifted between forms. Sometimes it looked like a cluster of broken mirrors. Sometimes like a human figure made of smoke and shards of light. Sometimes like a long wound in space. Its voice scraped along Voldemort's nerves, low and curious. "Your world resists," it said. "It does not want to be rewritten. Interesting." "My world is mine," Voldemort hissed. "It will accept my will, or it will be destroyed." "And the stranger," the shattered one murmured. "He has met me before, in other shapes, in other dead loops. He carries echoes of bargains made and broken." Voldemort's red eyes flared. "Can you break him?" he asked. "I can tempt him," the shattered one said. "He fears becoming what he once fought. He fears his own power. That makes him easy to push. Show him the chance to undo one more mistake and he will reach." Voldemort's thin mouth curved. "Good," he said. "We will show him what he wants, and while he hesitates, we will work around him." He thought about the boy's scar, about the feel of the time stone brushing his Horcrux web. "His time tricks cannot rewrite you fully," the shattered one observed. "This world's old magic rejects such edits." "Then we use the old magic," Voldemort said. "We twist it instead of break it, and we use him as the knife." He smiled in the green glow. Strange thought he was the doctor of this world now. Voldemort would show him what it felt like to be the disease. Strange did not know any of that as he walked down to the library with Hermione and Ron the next week. "This isn't a field trip," he said as they climbed the stairs. "This is patient history. We're going to study Hogwarts, its magic, its bones." Ron blinked. "Bones?" "Metaphor," Strange said. "Bad habit. Ignore it." The cloak flapped along behind them, carrying a stack of blank parchment and quills it had stolen from somewhere, like a very proud assistant. In the library, Madame Pince watched them like a hawk. "I do not tolerate damage to books," she warned Strange, eyes narrowed. "No scribbling, no dog-earing, no spillages, no—" "Relax," Strange said. "I like books. I spent months learning magic out of one while freezing on a mountain. She sniffed, but stepped aside. Hermione practically glowed as she led them toward the restricted section, letter from Dumbledore in hand. With special permission, she said, trying to sound casual and failing, to assist Dr. Strange in research. Strange moved through the rows, running his fingers a few inches from the spines. He could feel small traces of magic clinging to some books. Old curses, protective charms, bits of knowledge that did not want to be touched. He opened his astral form. In a blink, a ghostly, translucent version of himself stepped out of his body, leaving the physical one standing still, eyes closed. The astral Strange floated along the shelves, reading quickly, turning pages with invisible hands. Hermione gaped. "That is amazing," she whispered. "You can split yourself." "Only the mind," Strange's physical body said calmly. "The body stays here. Don't draw on my face." Ron grinned and picked up a quill. The cloak slapped it out of his hand. Astral Strange skimmed through volumes on ancient blood magic, castle wards, and the Department of Mysteries. He saw sketches of a stone arch hung with a tattered veil. He saw old notes about death, souls, and something called the Deathly Hallows. He made mental copies and slid back into his body. "Okay," he said. "Library's full of death stuff. Good to know." Hermione frowned. "The Deathly Hallows are just a story," she said. "Well, probably. Maybe. Oh no, you're going to tell me they're real." Strange shrugged. "Where I come from, if someone tells a story about infinite power, 9 times out of 10 it's based on something real and awful." Ron groaned. "Brilliant," he said. "So what's next on this cheerful tour? Graveyards?" "Forest," Strange said. "You have lines of magic running through it. I want to see how they behave where the wards are thin." Ron muttered something about spiders. The cloak patted his shoulder like a sympathetic dog. The forbidden forest was cold and dark, even in daylight. Strange walked at the front, wandless, hands loose. Harry, Hermione, and Ron followed. Wands lit. The cloak drifted just above the ground, brushing leaves aside. They were not alone. The forest felt full of eyes. "Do you even get scared?" Ron asked quietly. "Of course I do," Strange said. "I just move anyway." Something big snapped a branch ahead. The centaurs stepped out of the trees. They were tall, half man, half horse, their bows drawn, arrows aimed. Their leader, Firenze, looked from Strange to the students. "This forest has its own laws," he said. "You bring strange magic to it." "I'm not here to take anything," Strange said. "I'm here to look." Firenze's gaze went to Harry's scar, then to the cloak, then to the faint shimmer of the eye under Strange's tunic. His nostrils flared. "The skies are wrong," he said. "We see 2 heavens through our telescopes, one that belongs and one that presses against it. You are part of that second sky." "I didn't mean to press," Strange said. "I'm stuck." Firenze lowered his bow slightly. "The stars speak of a stranger with shadow and light in his hands," he said. "They also speak of a boy who walks willingly to his fate." Hermione stiffened. Ron shifted closer to Harry. "Do the stars say who wins?" Harry asked before he could stop himself. "The stars say there will be blood and choice," Firenze said simply. "They do not choose for you. They never have." Strange nodded. "That matches what I saw," he murmured. As they turned to go, Harry noticed thin shapes between the trees, skeletal winged horses with white eyes, thestrals. They watched him with calm, steady gazes. "You can see them too," he said to Strange. "Of course," Strange said quietly. I've seen plenty of death. Harry reached out and stroked a Thestral's bony neck. It snorted softly and leaned into his hand. Does it ever get easier? Harry asked. Losing people? No, Strange said. You just get better at carrying it. They walked out of the forest in silence. 2 nights later, Strange opened a portal in a deserted corridor deep inside the Ministry of Magic. Stay close, he told Harry, Hermione, and Ron. And if anyone asks, we're part of the janitorial corps. What's janitorial? Ron whispered. People who clean up other people's mess, Strange said. You know, us. They stepped through into the Department of Mysteries. The time room was filled with ticking devices. Glass time-turners hung in the air. A bell jar held a humming, glowing thing that aged and turned young again, over and over. Strange's eyes lit up with professional interest. That is time, he breathed. You people put time in jars. Unspeakables study it, Hermione whispered back. Nobody else is supposed to be down here. We could get expelled for this. Add it to the list, Ron said. Strange did not touch the hanging time-turners. He walked slowly, feeling the strange mix of human research and natural time flow. The eye of Agamotto hummed in response. This is all very cute, he said, but your real problem is down there. He led them past more doors until they stood before the arch with the tattered veil. Even without astral sight, he could feel it. A cold draught blew from the archway, carrying whispers. The veil fluttered though no wind touched it. Harry stared, heart thudding. Somewhere deep in his mind, Sirius's laugh echoed, and a stone chamber, and a fall. He shivered. What is it? Strange asked. A gateway, Hermione said softly. They say it's a barrier between the living and the dead, but no one knows for sure. Strange stepped closer. The eye grew hot against his chest. To his sight, the veil was not just a curtain. It was a rip, a natural, stable rip in the wall between realities. This is a wound, he said. Old and clean. Someone cut reality here and left it open. You sound like you want to sew it up, Ron muttered. Sometimes you leave a wound open to drain, Strange said. Sometimes you stitch it. Sometimes you graft. Always after you understand what's coming out of it. He opened the eye. Green light poured over the arch. Timelines, thin and strong, wrapped around the stone. At the same time, the Shattered One's faint presence spread through the Horcrux web, tugged on the eye like a magnet. The two forces met in the middle. The veil rippled. The Timestone's light seeped into its folds. Doctor, Harry said nervously. Is this safe? No, Strange said, but it's informative. The veil bulged. The whispers grew louder. A shape formed behind the curtain, pressing forward like a shadow trying to step into the light. Strange tried to pull the eye back. The combination of Hogwarts' old magic, the Horcrux links, and the veil grabbed hold of it. Reality shuddered. A man stepped through. He wore a blue tunic like Strange's, but darker, torn and stained. His hair was messier, his beard rougher. His eyes glowed with a purple tinge. Lines of dark magic traced his face. The cloak that hung off his shoulders looked like a wounded thing. For a moment, the two strangers stared at each other. Oh, the newcomer said. His voice was amused and cold. I remember this stage. Harry inhaled sharply. Hermione's hand flew to her wand. Ron whispered, Blimey. The new Strange glanced at the kids, then back at the original. You're younger, he said. Less broken. Less eaten. Who are you? Strange asked. An echo, the other Stephen said. A version of you who took different bargains, who tried to fix everything and lost his world instead. The shattered one pulled me apart. Your little trick with the veil put me back together. So thank you." He smiled. It was not a nice smile. Strange's stomach churned. This was exactly what he feared becoming. A man who thought every timeline was his to change, who broke his universe trying to save one person. "We're not doing this again," Strange said. "You're going back." Dark Strange laughed softly. "You don't have that choice anymore," he said. "You brought me through. This world's rules are entertaining. I think I'll stay and help." "Help who?" Harry asked. "Whoever wins," Dark Strange said. "Or maybe just myself." He raised his hands. Purple sigils spun into existence. The chamber around them twisted. The arch's shadows lengthened. Strange threw up a shield as Dark Strange's first blast hit. "Run!" he snapped at the kids. They dove to the side as the room folded, walls stretching. They were no longer just inside the Department of Mysteries. Doors flickered past. The Hall of Prophecy loomed into view. Tall shelves of glowing orbs stretching away into darkness. "Great," Ron panted. "We're fighting evil you in the prophecy room." Nothing could possibly go wrong. The duel between the two strangers did not look like normal wizard dueling. They moved through twisted spaces. One moment they stood on the floor. The next they were running sideways along a wall, gravity ignoring them. Sigils flashed, collided, and exploded in showers of sparks. Dark Strange yanked at the world with casual force, tearing small holes that led to empty blackness. Each time, the castle's deeper wards pushed back, refusing to let those holes widen. "See?" Dark Strange called, voice echoing. "This reality is stubborn, but it will bend. Everything does." "You broke your own," Strange shot back. "You don't get to touch this one." He flung a whip of golden energy. Dark Strange cut it with a blade of purple light and sent the pieces spinning toward a shelf of prophecies. Strange twisted space so the shards missed, slamming into an empty wall instead. From behind a column, Harry watched, heart thudding. Hermione clutched his sleeve. Ron's jaw hung open. "They're going to blow the whole place up," Ron whispered. "Not if we help," Hermione hissed. "We can break whatever anchors he's using. He's latching onto things." Harry looked around. He noticed that each time Dark Strange warped the space, he tied his magic to objects in the room. A shelf corner, a stepping stone, a particular orb. "It's like he's building handles," Harry said. "If we knock them away." "He loses grip," Hermione finished. They slipped out, sticking to shadows. While the two sorcerers blasted each other, Harry and Hermione stunned some of the supports Dark Strange had woven his sigils around. Ron threw a stunner at a glowing anchor on the ceiling, knocking it down. With each broken anchor, Dark Strange's spells got more jerky. He snarled. "You're letting them meddle," he spat at Strange. "Kid, Stephen. Really? You could fix this with a snap." "I learned what snaps can do," Strange growled. Dark Strange appeared right in front of Harry in a blink. His purple eyes bored into the boy's green ones. "You're the special one here," he said. "The chosen, the sacrifice. I know your type. People like Dumbledore and me always tell you it's your choice. It is a lie. They've already written your ending." Harry's breath caught. The way he said it was too close to his own fears. "I can change it," Dark Strange said softly. "I can cut the thread so no one else decides for you." Harry thought of his parents, Cedric, Sirius. He thought of walking into the forest in that future Strange had seen. And then he thought of this man's world, the way he had said, lost his world. "What did you do to your universe?" Harry asked. Dark Strange's jaw tightened. "I saved the one person I loved," he said. "I broke everything else." He smiled again, but it flickered. "Worth it?" Harry shook his head. "Not for us," he said. "I won't trade everyone else's lives just to feel safe." He lifted his wand. "Expelliarmus." The spell was simple, but honest. It hit Dark Strange full in the chest. He staggered, not because of the power, but because of what it meant. Strange seized the opening. He flung a binding spell, not from his own pattern, but from Hogwarts. He had copied pieces of it in his mapping. Golden bands laced with faint old runes wrapped around Dark Strange. At that same moment, a flash of light filled the room. Dumbledore arrived, stepping through a portal. Strange opened at the last second. He swept his wand in a clean, sharp arc. A net of silver light dropped over Dark Strange, reacting to the echo's twisted soul and pinning him harder. They had him, for a breath. Then the Shattered One pulled. Dark Strange's body shivered. Cracks of purple light ran through him. He threw his head back and laughed once, bitter and wild. "You can't fix what you already broke," he said. "You can only spread it." He exploded, not in blood and fire, but in shards of magic and memory. Pieces of him blew outward as motes of light. Some sank into the floor, some shot up through the ceiling, racing along the threads of the Horcrux web toward Voldemort. Some were sucked back through the veil like smoke drawn into a vent. Strange and Dumbledore shielded the students. The blast rocked the chamber. Several prophecies shattered, their whispers vanishing into nothing. When the light faded, Dark Strange was gone. Only a faint stain of purple light remained on the floor. Dumbledore straightened slowly. "Well," he said softly, "that could have gone better." Strange rubbed a hand over his face. "He was me," he said, "or could have been." Dumbledore put a gentle hand on his arm. "He was a you," he said, "not you." Harry stared at the spot where the echo had stood. He felt shaken, but also oddly sure. "I chose," he thought, and he didn't like it. Ron swallowed hard. "Can we please get out of this place now?" he said. "I feel like my ears are full of ghosts." They left the Department of Mysteries in a rush, through another portal, back to the quiet of the tower room. None of them noticed the small, invisible hairline cracks that had formed along the veil's edge, or the way a faint purple gleam now threaded through some of the dark lines in Voldemort's soul web. Back at Hogwarts, Strange stood at his window again that night, looking at the floating serpent above the lake and the thin lines of magic that ran through the castle. But something had changed. In his astral sight, the Shattered One's presence was clearer now. It moved faintly within the wards, feeding on the tension between worlds. Bits of Dark Strange's magic flickered through it like sparks in a storm cloud. "We just made it smarter," Strange muttered. "Great job, Stephen." The cloak brushed his shoulder. A soft knock sounded at the door. This time, Strange heard it. Dumbledore entered, lines deeper around his eyes. "You did well," the headmaster said, "for a side trip." "We broke your ministry's toy room," Strange said, "and I let a corrupted version of myself mix with your main enemy. That's not my idea of well." Dumbledore's eyes went to the serpent in the sky. "Fate rarely cares about our ideas," he said, "but we are still here. We still have choices, including how we live with what we have unleashed." Strange nodded slowly. He knew what this meant. He was no longer an outside healer looking in. Parts of him, literal and echo, were now woven into this world's illness. "I'm in it now," he said, "whether I like it or not." "Yes," Dumbledore said, "you are." They stood in silence a moment. Two men who had made too many hard decisions and seen too many futures. Outside, the enchanted sky flickered again. For a second, beyond the stars, Strange saw something like a doorway, a small, steady ring of golden light high above the castle where two skies touched. He realized that whatever happened next, this world would never be the same, and neither would he. Weeks slipped by, and Hogwarts adjusted to having a sorcerer from another world living in one of its towers. Dr. Strange settled into a strange kind of routine. Every morning he walked the outer walls with Dumbledore, feeling the wards like a doctor feeling a pulse. In the afternoons, he taught short movement and shield sessions to a small group of DA members. At night, he sat in his tower, drawing glowing maps of the castle and the land around it. Above the lake, the frozen shadow serpent still hung in the sky. Students had started calling it the Sky Basilisk. It looked like a storm caught halfway through a strike. Its eyes burned dim green in the dark. Strange checked it often, making sure it stayed chained between water and cloud. The shattered one was quieter now, but not gone. In his astral sight, Strange could see it like a faint crack that ran through the wards, shifting slowly, testing limits. Bits of Dark Strange's purple magic flickered inside it once in a while. The cloak of levitation seemed to enjoy castle life. It raced broomsticks in the courtyard, winning every time but always making it close at the end. It got into regular fights with the sorting hat, especially on days when new students tried it on. Several portraits complained that a rude curtain kept shoving them out of frame when they tried to gossip about the sorcerer. At least once a week, the cloak tripped Umbridge in the corridor. It always looked innocent by the time she turned around. Strange pretended not to see any of it. But sometimes, when the cloak dragged itself in at the end of the day covered in chalk dust and pigeon feathers, he muttered, "Had fun," and the cloak puffed itself up with pride. One cold evening, Strange met Dumbledore on the astronomy tower. Snow dusted the stone. The lights of Hogsmeade twinkled far away. The Sky Basilisk's form glowed faintly above the lake, like a scar in the clouds. Dumbledore held 2 steaming cups. He handed one to Strange. "I used to come up here to think," the headmaster said. "It is harder to do that now that the sky looks like that." Strange sipped. The tea was strong and simple. "I'm working on it," he said. "I can't undo the serpent without ripping your wards, but I can move where the strain sits." "And you?" Dumbledore asked. "Where does your strain sit these days?" Strange watched his breath fog in the air. "On the same old spot," he said. "Right between do something and do too much." Dumbledore chuckled softly. "A tightrope I know well." They fell quiet. After a while, Strange spoke again. "I saw something," he said. "In time. Futures. If I crush Voldemort in one move, your world depends on me. If I walk away, you might all die. If I keep trying to rewrite the script, I risk becoming that echo again. There's no clean answer." "There rarely is," Dumbledore said gently. "But you are not the only author here, Stephen. You are a guest writer in a long story. That is not a small thing." Strange nodded. He had known that already. Somehow it helped to hear someone else say it. "Death is watching," Dumbledore added. "It always is. Not with hate, just attention. We do not get to cheat it without a cost." "I know," Strange said. "Trust me. I know." He thought of Christine's face, of the crash, of the times he had begged time to give him one more chance, of worlds he had seen die. "I won't turn your war into another time loop," he said. "I will help, but I won't hold your world by the throat, even to save it." Dumbledore smiled, sad and proud. "That is all I can ask," he said. That same night, Harry found Strange alone in the great hall. The long tables were empty. The candles floated low. The sky basilisk's shadow slid across the enchanted ceiling. Harry walked up the central aisle, footsteps echoing. Strange sat on the edge of the staff table with a stack of parchment in front of him. "You're making maps," Harry said. "Always," Strange replied. "Helps me think." Harry sat on the bench across from him. "You really aren't going to just fix it, are you?" he asked. Strange looked up. "Fix what?" "Everything," Harry said. "Voldemort, the Horcruxes, my scar. It must be easy for you, compared to what you do back home." Strange folded his hands. "Easy is not the same as right," he said. "Yes, I could pull on the threads, but this world has rules that are not mine. If I break them, there are prices you would pay, not me." Harry frowned. "You see futures where I die," he said. "You told me. How can you stand there and not stop it?" Strange's jaw tightened. "Do you think I don't want to?" he asked quietly. "You think I enjoy watching children walk into danger? If I move one piece wrong, I might save you and lose everything else. Or worse, I might turn this world into a place where everyone waits for me to solve their problems." He let out a breath. "You're not supposed to have a god," he said. "You're supposed to have teachers, friends, a chance to make your own call." Harry looked down at his hands. "Dumbledore says something like that," he muttered. "Most days I hate it." Strange's mouth twisted. "You're allowed to," he said. "You're the one walking into the line of fire." Harry glanced at the frozen serpent in the ceiling. "So what will you do?" he asked. "In the end, I'll keep your sky from tearing," Strange said. "I'll keep that thing," he pointed at the serpent, "from eating your world. I'll deal with the shattered one because it's partly my mess. And then I'll make sure you can't call me every time you scrape your knee." Harry snorted. "I don't think we'd call you for knees." "You would be surprised," Strange said. They sat together in the empty hall, two very different men who both carried too much on their shoulders. "Whatever happens," Harry said at last, "thank you for not treating us like glass or like ants." Strange lifted his cup in a small mock salute. "Try not to die," he said. "It would make my maps look bad." Harry laughed. It sounded tired, but real. The offer came in the Forbidden Forest. Strange went there alone one night, following a pulse in the wards. The cloak fluttered behind him, nervous but loyal. The trees were black shapes against a slate sky. Mist hugged the ground. The centaurs kept their distance. Strange could feel them watching, but they did not approach. At the edge of a small clearing, he stopped. Lord Voldemort stepped out of the darkness like a shadow becoming solid. He wore dark robes. His pale face was thinner than before, eyes red and bright. The air around him felt cold, like all warmth had been pulled away. Beside him, something else hung in the air, a shape like a wound in space, the shattered one. It pulsed faintly with purple sparks from Dark Strange's magic. "Dr. Strange," Voldemort said in a soft, almost polite voice. "What an honor." Strange did not raise his hands, not yet. The cloak spread itself wide, ready. "You've been busy," Strange said, "twisting my kind of magic into your tricks. Not very original." "I adapt," Voldemort said. "I survive. I improve. Something you clearly understand." He gestured at the shattered one. "This fragment of your world speaks to me," he went on. "It showed me possibilities." The shattered one's voice slid through Strange's mind, not quite words. "We can undo," it whispered. "We can rewind. We can bind all timelines into one line of your choosing." Images flashed in front of Strange. The car crash, But this time the car did not skid. His hands stayed whole. Christine lived. The hospital stayed busy. He was still the top surgeon in New York, saving lives with scalpels instead of spells. Another image. Titan. Thanos' gauntlet held back by Strange's magic alone. The snap never happening. Half the universe never dusted. No 5 missing years. Another. Dark Strange never created. His universe never broken. "You want what I want," Voldemort said softly. "Control. No more random loss. No more fate. With your time tricks and my knowledge of souls, we can build a world where no one dies unless we allow it. No pain unless we choose. No chaos." He smiled thin and sharp. "You would like that, I think. No more children in danger. No more lectures about choice. Just clean lines on your maps." For a moment, the idea hit Strange like a drug. A world without the crash, without the endless Groundhog Day with Dormammu, without the snap, no more funerals. He could go back, fix his worst mistakes, save everyone he lost. He looked at Voldemort. Behind the offer, he saw the truth. A world where 2 men, one from each universe, decided who lived and who died. A world where pain was only allowed as a lesson they picked. A world where everyone else was a piece on a board. He thought of Harry's face when he said, "No one else chooses for me." Strange's fingers curled. "No," he said. Voldemort's smile faded. "Think carefully," he said. "I am not offering this twice." "You're not offering it at all," Strange said. "You think you are, but you're giving me a chance to become you. I already met that version of myself. I didn't like him." The Shattered One pulsed harder, pressing images at him. Whole world saved, Christine's laugh, a universe where his hands never shook. Strange closed his eyes. For one long, painful moment, he let the grief wash through him. Then he opened them again. "I miss them," he said. "All of them. But they died with meaning. Your way would take that meaning away. That's not mercy. That's theft." Voldemort's eyes burned. "So you choose chaos," he hissed. "You choose to let fools throw their lives away instead of using your gifts to make a perfect world." "I choose not to be your god," Strange said quietly. "Or mine." The Shattered One drew back a little, as if surprised. "You will regret this," Voldemort said. "I regret plenty already," Strange said. "What's one more?" The Dark Wizard's face twisted. The Shattered One's edges sharpened. "Then let us speak again," Voldemort said, "when your wards are falling." He and the Shattered One slipped back into the trees. The clearing grew still. The cloak wrapped itself around Strange's shoulders in a tight hug. He let it. "Yeah," he whispered. "I know." The attack did not come the next day, or the one after. It came a week later, on a night when the whole castle seemed to be holding its breath. The snake in the sky began to move. Harry woke with his scar on fire. Students tumbled out of bed shouting. The ground shook. The enchanted ceiling flashed white. Dumbledore's voice rang through the halls, magnified by magic. "All students to the Great Hall. Prefects, follow your instructions. Teachers, to your posts." Harry, Ron, and Hermione ran with the others, wands in hand. But as they reached the stair, a hand grabbed Harry's arm. It was Strange. "Not you 3, he said. "You're coming with us." "With us?" Ron echoed, eyes wide. Behind Strange stood Dumbledore, calm but pale. The cloak was already flaring in alarm. "We need Harry," Dumbledore said. "His scar is tied to what is coming. Hermione, Ron, your presence may help anchor him, but you must do exactly as we say." They nodded, fear and determination mixing in their faces. Strange slashed a portal in the air. On the other side lay a chamber deep under the castle that none of them had seen before. It was round, with tall stone walls. Lines of old magic glowed on the floor like carved runes. In the center stood a low stone platform. The air hummed with power. "This is the heart of the wards," Dumbledore said. "Few have ever stood here. Tonight it will either hold or break." The sky basilisk roared above them, even through layers of stone. The chamber shook. Strange stepped onto the platform. Dumbledore took another side. Harry swallowed and moved to the third. Hermione and Ron took places just outside the main ring, wands ready. "All right," Strange said. "We're going to try something very stupid." "Wonderful," Ron muttered. "At least he's honest." Strange drew a wide circle. Golden light flowed from his hands, forming a ring around the platform. Dumbledore lifted his wand, tracing an old symbol inside it. The two patterns met and locked, creating a joint field. "Harry," Dumbledore said, "focus on your scar. Do not fight it. Feel the links that run from it, to the snake, to the others, to Voldemort himself." Harry closed his eyes. Pain lanced through his head. He saw flashes. A ring, a locket, a cup, a snake. Tom Riddle's diary, torn. The sky basilisk. Voldemort's sneering face. He also felt something else. A cold, jagged presence threaded through those things. The shattered one. Dark Strange's purple sparks burning inside it. "Got it," he gasped. "It's all tangled." "Good," Strange said. "Hold it. Don't pull. Just show us the web." He opened the eye. Green light flooded the chamber. The Horcrux network lit up in the air like lines on a map, centered on Harry's scar. The shattered one's crack ran through the center, linking his world and theirs. The sky basilisk was a knot where the crack pierced the wards. Dumbledore's eyes widened, seeing what he had only guessed until now. "My word," he whispered. The ceiling above them exploded. Stone rained down in chunks. Strange threw a shield up without thinking. Rocks bounced off it and rolled away. Smoke filled the room. Through the hole, Voldemort dropped in. He floated down like a shadow, robes swirling. His eyes glowed sickly green. Shards of Dark Strange's magic crackled around his hands. Behind him, the sky basilisk's body twisted, forcing more of itself into the chamber. "Welcome," Voldemort said, "to the end of your castle." He raised both arms. The shattered one surged. The crack in the wards widened as it tried to drag the Horcrux lines and the sky basilisk together into one huge, stable bridge between worlds. Reality groaned. Students in the great hall screamed as the walls shook. Teachers held shields over their heads. The stars on the ceiling spun. In the heart chamber, Strange felt the pull like a wind trying to suck him out of his own skin. He planted his feet. "Albus," he shouted, "hold your end." Dumbledore's jaw clenched. He drove his wand into the stone at his feet. Old magic flared, the castle itself joining his will. The glow of the floor runes intensified. "Harry," Dumbledore called, "stay with me." Harry's knees buckled. Hermione grabbed his arm. Ron grabbed the other. Together they kept him upright as waves of pain hit his scar. Voldemort laughed. "You cannot hold it," he yelled over the roar. "This world wants to change. It is tired of chance, tired of loss. Let me fix it." He reached toward Harry, not with his hand, but with magic. Horcrux lines whipped around him, pulling at Harry's soul, at the shattered crack. Strange saw it all at once. If Voldemort succeeded, the shattered one would anchor fully inside him. He would become a living bridge to the other universe. A Dark Lord with access to cosmic power and time tricks. The worst possible mix. If Strange cut him off by force, the backlash could snap the wards. Hogwarts would rip like paper. He had to split the problem. "Fine," Strange muttered. We operate. He spun a new spell. Instead of grabbing at Voldemort directly, he reached for the Shattered One. Not to erase it, but to move it. The cloak wrapped around his arms, helping him hold the shape. Golden and green rings spun together. The eye blazed. Time and space stretched. For a second, Strange felt the Shattered One fully. It was not a simple monster. It was a pattern, made out of broken loops and failed bargains, feeding on every time someone tried to control fate too hard. He understood it. "You're me," he whispered, in the worst way. The Shattered One hissed, angry and afraid. Strange pushed. He did not try to crush it. Instead, he slid it along the lines of the wards, up and out, away from Hogwarts' heart. He aimed it at the sky, at a point far above the castle, where the two realities were already thin. A bright ring formed over Hogwarts, high in the clouds. It was small at first, then widened, burning white gold. It looked like one of Strange's portals, but solid, like a star. The Shattered One screamed. It tore itself away from Voldemort's pull and shot upward, funneled through the heart chamber, past the sky basilisk, into the forming ring. As it went, it dragged the crack with it, thinning the damage left behind. The sky basilisk thrashed as its source of power moved. Strange slapped one more sigil on its spine, binding it to the new ring instead of the castle. The giant serpent ripped free of the ceiling and shot into the sky, vanishing into the glowing circle. The ring shrank around it, holding it like a closed eye. Silence fell in the chamber. The only thing left was Voldemort, still linked to his Horcrux web, but no longer fused with the Shattered One. He stared up at the small, bright gateway high above, shock plain on his face. "You took it," he whispered. "You stole it from me." Strange lowered his hands. His legs shook. The eye dimmed, exhausted. "I moved it," he said. "Out of reach. For you, for me, for everyone." He felt the new ring like a controlled sore spot in reality. A stable gateway, anchored to his own sanctum on the other side. It was still dangerous, but he could watch it. Inside the chamber, the wards slowly stopped screaming. The lines of Horcrux magic around Harry's scar calmed, still there but no longer carrying the Shattered One's crack. Voldemort trembled with fury. "You wasted it," he hissed. "All that power, all that control, thrown away." Harry lifted his wand. "You don't get to talk about wasted lives," Harry said, voice shaking with anger. "Not after everything you've done." Voldemort's eyes snapped to him. "Boy," he sneered, "you are nothing without him." He jerked his chin at Strange. "Without Dumbledore, without your little friends, you are a vessel, that is all." Harry's scar burned, but less than before. He could feel the horror of what almost happened. He could also feel that the choice had not been taken from him. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm my vessel." He sent a curse, not a killing curse, a strong reductor jinx. Voldemort dodged, of course. His own curse shot back, a green flash. Dumbledore stepped between, deflecting it with practiced ease. For a few seconds, the chamber became a whirl of lights. Dumbledore and Voldemort dueled, their spells clashing. Strange stayed back, hands on the main field, holding the newly balanced wards and gateway steady. One more big spell from him could tip the whole thing over again. This had to be their duel. Wizard versus wizard. Harry, Hermione and Ron added what they could. Well-aimed hexes, shields, distractions. They weren't strong enough yet to beat the Dark Lord head-on, but they could shift the flow. In the end, Voldemort realized it too. He could not win here, not today. His stolen cosmic edge was gone. The castle was against him. The stranger had taken his new toy and locked it out of reach. He snarled. "This is not finished," he spat. He twisted his magic around himself and vanished with a crack, slipping along the Horcrux lines to safety. The chamber fell quiet again. Dumbledore lowered his wand. His shoulders sagged with tiredness. Harry dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Hermione and Ron were pale and shaking, but alive. Strange stayed standing by pure stubbornness. "You let him go," Harry panted, looking at Strange. "You could have—" "Yes," Strange said. "I could have dropped a mountain on him, or folded him into the dark dimension, or locked him in a time loop where he dies over and over until the end of the universe." He met Harry's eyes. "And then I would be your new problem." Harry swallowed. "We removed the thing that did not belong here," Dumbledore said quietly. "The Shattered One. That is more than I hoped. The rest has always been our fight, Harry. Mine, yours, this world's." Harry looked up through the hole in the ceiling. Through the stone and soil and night, he could see a small, bright ring high above the castle. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Inside it, something big and dangerous shifted, but did not break free. "Is it safe?" he asked. "Nothing like that is safe," Strange said. "But it's controlled. It's tied to my world now. I can watch it." He rubbed his hands together, wincing. "Your castle will hold," he added. "The wards are different, but stable." Dumbledore smiled faintly. "Thank you," he said, "for being exactly as stubborn as you are." "The Ministry is going to hate this," Ron muttered. "The Ministry can't see that far up," Hermione said. "I hope." Strange followed Harry's gaze. The ring in the sky was small, but it changed everything. It was a bridge that did not belong, yet was now part of Hogwarts reality. A clear sign that their worlds were linked. It was also his way home. The days after the battle felt strange. Repairs in the castle began at once. Flitwick and other teachers fixed the hole above the heart chamber. The shaking in the great hall stopped. The students went back to classes, though they whispered more than usual. And many secretly checked the sky through windows. The sky basilisk was gone from above the lake. In its place, far higher, hung a faint star that never moved. At night it gleamed a little brighter than the others, with a thin golden ring around it if you squinted. Rumours ran wild. Some said Dumbledore had built a secret weapon. Others said the mysterious Muggle sorcerer had put a leash on a god. A few claimed if you stared at the ring long enough, you could see another world. Umbridge tried to question students and staff about what had happened. No one told her much. The few who knew details understood that explaining cosmic fracture surgery would not go over well. In the Ministry, unspeakables argued for days over new readings from their instruments. They noted thin cracks by the veil, odd spikes in time flow. A file labelled Inter-Universe Event. Hogwarts grew thicker. Strange spent his last week at the castle making sure the new pattern held. He walked the grounds with Dumbledore, checking each anchor point. He left a small sigil in the heart chamber, tied to the ring in the sky. He also added a simple hidden mark near the Great Hall, in case he needed to come through fast. He taught one final session with the DA. "Remember," he told them as they practiced his movement drills, "you don't need circles of fancy light to do this. You need your brain. If you can make your enemy's spell hit a wall instead of your face, you already won." Neville actually blocked a hex with a smart sidestep and shouted, "Like that?" "Exactly like that," Strange said. The cloak floated among them, gently correcting Melissa's elbow. tugging Seamus's wand up when he aimed too low, wrapping around Luna's shoulders in a quick hug. Harry stayed after the others left. "So," he said, "you're going." "Soon," Strange said. "Your world doesn't like having me here full time. It keeps trying to fold around me. That ring in the sky is the safest way to keep a door open without breaking anything else." "Will you come back?" Harry asked. Strange looked at him. "If your sky starts to tear again, yes," he said. "If Voldemort finds a way to poke at that ring, yes. If all you need is a teacher for shields and clever footwork, you have plenty of those here already." Harry nodded. He didn't like it, but he understood. "You did something important," Strange added. "You showed that echo of me that he was wrong. You told a man who thought he owned time that you'd rather face your fate than let him write it for you. That matters." Harry flushed. "I just said what I thought." "Exactly," Strange said. They shook hands. It felt less like student and teacher and more like two soldiers saying goodbye before different battles. Hogwarts looked almost normal the night Strange left. Dinner was loud. Peeves threw peas. Ron argued with Seamus over Quidditch. Hermione tried and failed to keep a book away from gravy. Up at the staff table, Dumbledore stood. "Before we begin dessert," he said, "I have an announcement. Our guest, Dr. Stephen Strange, will be leaving us tonight. He has work to do back in his own world." The great hall fell silent. Every eye turned to Strange. He stood slowly. The cloak fluttered over his shoulders. For once, it stayed still. "I'm not much for speeches," he said, "so I'll keep this short. This castle is stubborn, noisy, and full of strange people. I like it." A ripple of laughter moved through the room. "You don't need me to win your war," he went on. "You have your own magic, your own stories. Just remember 3 things. Don't lean on power you don't understand. Don't let fear write your choices for you. And if a red cloak shows up in your dorm and tries to steal your homework, that's not my fault." The cloak made an offended little shake. Strange looked at Harry, Hermione, Ron, at McGonagall, at Snape, who met his gaze with a careful, unreadable look. "Good luck," he said simply. Then he drew a circle in the air. Sparks flared. The portal opened onto the sanctum in New York, its windows glowing in the night. The cloak gave the sorting hat one last teasing flick, zoomed back to Strange, and wrapped around him. He stepped through. The portal closed. The enchanted ceiling showed only the star with a thin golden ring high above, glowing a little brighter than before. The years that followed turned Strange's brief stay at Hogwarts into a story. Students told each other about the sorcerer in the tower who made shields without a wand and whose cloak had more attitude than most people. Teachers remembered the night the sky cracked and was stitched back together by 2 very different kinds of magic. The sky basilisk never returned, but the ring in the sky stayed. On clear nights, you could see it from the astronomy tower. Some said if you looked closely, you could see shapes moving inside. Others said it was just a trick of the light. Either way, it became part of Hogwarts' new ceiling charm, a fixed point that never matched the real stars, but always shone with a pale, steady glow. The DA kept some of Strange's drills. Angles, not power, Hermione would remind them as they practiced dodges and quick shields. Move the attack. Neville would sometimes mutter, "Try not to die," before a tough duel, and the others would grin, because they all remembered who had said it first. Ministry files on inter-universe event. Hogwarts remained locked in the Department of Mysteries. A few unspeakables always kept half an eye on the veil and on the odd readings from the sky. They never fully understood the pattern, but they knew one thing. Something out there had chosen not to remake their world in its own image. Voldemort, cut off from the Shattered One's power, focused back on his own cruel style of magic. He still had Horcruxes. He still had followers. He still wanted to rule. His war went on, now without a shortcut to godhood. That made him, in a strange way, more dangerous and more honest. In quiet moments, some Death Eaters wondered about the strange, scared fragments of purple light that sometimes flickered in their Dark Lord's eyes when he thought no one was looking. Snape, in his lonely watch, added a new secret to the many he kept. Calculations on how to block not only curses and legilimency, but also any reach from beyond the thin ring in the sky. One late evening, sometime after the battle in the Heart Chamber, Dumbledore climbed the astronomy tower alone. The night was clear. The new star shone overhead, circle neat and sharp. There was already someone there. Dr. Strange stood by the parapet, hands on the cold stone, cloak fluttering lazily in the breeze. He looked the same, maybe a little more tired around the eyes. "Door works," he said without turning. "Good. I wasn't sure if your world would let me open it from my end." "I had faith," Dumbledore said. "I find it usually helps with doors." They stood side by side. "How goes your world?" Dumbledore asked. "Busy," Strange said. "More portals, more things trying to eat the sky. Same job, different day." "And ours?" he added. "Also busy," Dumbledore said. "But that is as it should be. We are moving toward an end. The right one, I hope." Strange nodded. "I won't stay," he said. "Just checking the stitches." He closed his eyes for a second, feeling the ring, the wards, the lines around Harry's scar. Everything still held. Cracks, yes. Risks, always. But no spreading infection. "Looks good," he said. "For a very old, very stubborn patient." Dumbledore smiled. "You worry like a healer," he said. "It's what I am," Strange said. "Under all the glitter." They were quiet for a while. "Do you ever think about the offer?" Dumbledore asked softly. "The one you turned down?" "Every day," Strange said. "That's how I know I was right to say no. If I had said yes, I would not be thinking about it. I'd be using it." Dumbledore inclined his head. "Thank you," he said, "for giving us help without taking our story. That is rare. That is kind." Strange made a face. "Don't spread that around," he said. "I have a reputation." They both chuckled. Down below, faintly, they heard laughter from students in the courtyard. Someone shouted about a broom race. A ghost floated lazily through a wall. Life went on. Strange finished his tea. Dumbledore had somehow pressed a cup into his hand again without him noticing, and set it on the stone. "If the ring flares, I'll know," he said. "If it does, I'll be back. Otherwise, this is your show." Dumbledore nodded. "Then we will try to make it a good one," he said. Strange stepped back. He drew one small circle in the air. Sparks flew. The portal to the sanctum opened, showing bookshelves and glowing windows on the other side. The cloak gave the sorting hat, which had somehow dragged itself up to the tower just to watch, one last haughty flick. The hat grumbled something about show-off drapes. Strange smiled, faint but true. "Take care of them," he said. "I intend to," Dumbledore replied. Strange stepped through the portal. It closed with a soft sound. The tower was quiet again. Dumbledore looked up at the star ring one last time. It shone steadily. "Power and restraint," he murmured. "What a strange gift for a school." He turned and walked back down into the castle. Behind him, Above the highest turrets of Hogwarts, the small golden ring hung in the night sky like a promise that other worlds existed, that help could come, and that even a sorcerer supreme knew when to let a story belong to the people inside it.